Greetings, Planet Houston. I'm General Zod, and welcome to Zod's Vlog. Today we shall be talking about Man of Steel, the new film about the son of Jor-El. And of course it is a waste of film. The director, Zack Snyder, should be brought before me and made to kneel. But alas, I shall not be doing it alone. I've recruited 2 Houstonians to review this piece of crap with me. Ursa! None!
I told you, I'm not Ursa!
And I'm not None!
And you kidnapped us!
Semantics review!
If we do this, will you leave us alone?
Possibly.
Should we?
Do we got much of a choice?
Fine.
Yes! Begin title sequence, deploy! Ah, this is comfy. Wait. Why are you 2 wearing those?
We're protesting the movie. By
Yes.
promoting better superheroes.
Oh, don't be such big babies.
You know I'm still wearing the shirt, right?
Kneel!
But I'm sitting.
Fine.
Regardless,
Yes.
I promote Marvel now. Fully. Because of that movie.
You're not just saying that because you like Disney films.
Quiet you.
Then again, you could say the same thing about Star Wars, but we're not getting into that. At least Batman, at least the recent Batman movies didn't have this much crap. I mean, yeah, Dark Knight Rises is still a little iffy with some fans, and I can understand that. I can understand both viewpoints. I can understand why some people don't like Dark Knight Rises, and I can understand people why they like Dark Knight Rises. But here, I don't know how... I'm still baffled as to how Superman fans could enjoy Man of Steel.
Indeed. I ask that every day. How can you worship the son of Jor-El?
It's not just Superman fans, it's movie fans in general. Like, this movie is a fucking insult. Like, to cinematography, to storytelling, to everything that makes a movie, a good movie, a good movie.
Indeed. I was quite offended.
It's like if you want to tell a story, like, have a beginning, a middle, and end. Don't fuck up the beginning by showing, like, 10 different beginnings and scrapes of, like, the middle.
Yes, seriously. I was convinced the son of Jor-El had aged rapidly in just the span of... How long did it take him to get from spaceship to ocean?
About 15 minutes.
My God.
Yeah, he aged about, 33 years in the span of a second?
Pretty much.
Transitions!
That's the big part of it. Is the direction, and I mean I feel that with Zack Snyder, this was out of his comfort zone. The last 2 big movies he directed were 300 and Watchmen. At least with those, he had some frame of reference. He had the actual, he actually had the comic with them. I mean, if you watch 300 and if you watch Watchmen, it's pretty close to the actual source material. He had source material to go off of to get it right, to at least make it, as true to the actual source material as it is. But when you have something like Superman, where a lot of filmmakers just take liberty on doing whatever it is that they want with it. I mean, the same goes with like Batman and other big superhero movies. When you take liberties with that, I mean, it could be really good and it could be really bad. And there's times where it actually paid off. I mean, with a lot of the early Superman movies, like the first 2 Superman movies were good, and they weren't really... Yeah, they had the origin story, but they took liberties to do whatever they want with it to make it work within the realm of Superman.
Indeed. They made it silly, but at least they made it Superman.
I mean, here it felt like Zack Snyder didn't know what to do. He didn't really have like an exact frame of reference. He wasn't basing it off of one single Superman comic. This was a complete original story. I mean, one that he didn't write. I mean, it was written by Christopher Nolan and David S. Goyer, who also wrote the Dark Knight trilogy. So when you have have a director who doesn't really have a frame of reference, all of a sudden it's like he's kind of baffled. Like he's just throwing in elements from like other films that he did, like mostly like Watchmen. I saw a lot of like Watchmen when he did, like, especially in the beginning with all the different like jumping into like different like periods of time. I'm just like what are you doing? Are you? It's like, am I rewatching? Am I seeing Watchmen again? It's like it doesn't work in the context of a film like this.
It doesn't, like, because I mean, like, I'm just thinking about this hurts my brain. Just the way it was shot. It's like, like, I understand if you want to, like, sort of tweak the origins, you know, maybe show something that nobody's ever shown before. Like, the fact that they, like, showed you more of Krypton. I mean, they didn't really do that in the movies. Like, they sort of did it on the animated series.
They sort of did that with, even in the first Superman movie, they did a little bit of that. I will give it that, I will give it much that at least they kept the original origin of Superman, you know, that he was the last son of Krypton, that the planet was being destroyed, and that, you know, Jor-El, nobody was listening to Jor-El. At least they kept that part.
I cannot believe I was allied with Jor-El. Why did they have that?
Even a better question. Okay, Krypton is being destroyed, right? And Jor-El is like just trying to convince the elders, like, yeah, I mean, it's being destroyed. And the elders are like, no. You stage a coup against the government. You say you're going to take over Krypton. There is going to be nothing left. Even Jor-El says there's no Krypton left. Krypton is going to be destroyed. You're going to be the leader of nothing.
Yes.
He clearly says you're going to be the leader of nothing.
And even my character knows that the planet is going to blow up.
So, wouldn't it be, and even later in the movie, when you say that you were born to protect Krypton, wouldn't it be your first priority would be to, get the people off the planet into, like, your own spaceships? Because apparently you have spaceships, and apparently you can take enough to transport people off the planet to somewhere else to find another planet elsewhere, because you have, like these scout ships that you shot into space for, like, 20,000 years, and yet this doesn't occur to you at all in any way.
That's
really?
what I thought. That's what I thought.
And that was when I pieced this all together, I'm just like, is it really going to be that kind of movie where like there's plot holes up the yin yang? I'm just like, oh dear God, I hope this doesn't go this way. And then we get the transition from after
my character is encased in the Phantom Zone.
A little after that, when Superman's ship lands into Earth, it goes, towards water, and then all of a sudden it transitions to like 33 years later with him being on a boat as looking like the son of the Gordon's fisherman. Just trying, it's like even you were saying, like, did we skip the movie somewhere?
That's what I legitimately thought. I'm like, wait, something's wrong with the movie. Like, it seems like we got to, like, the halfway mark already. Like, what the hell? Like, and then this leads to, like I said, a sequence where they keep splicing in flashbacks, either from Krypton or from his childhood, and it jumps all over the place. So, like, you really have, like, no concept of like time in this movie. Like when certain things happen, if they happened already or if they yet to happen, like there's no indication.
I was not sure what part of the movie I was watching. I didn't know if it was linear or not.
And that's the part of the thing I hated about like the scene with Krypton. Like it would have been good. It would have been something new. But they ruin it by adding in all like those flashbacks, and especially later on when Superman finally like meets the hologram of his father, who proceeds to tell him everything that we just saw.
But I will say this: that actually, that did happen in the first film, but at the same time, we saw it. See, at least in Superman 1, when they said, you were the last son of Krypton, and we knew that because we saw the beginning in the very first Superman movie of him being shot, into space from Krypton. Even with that, they were able to describe it, and didn't show everything, and they described everything else in words. But like as you said, they basically re-showed everything that we just saw.
Like, I mean, if you're gonna do that, like, try to keep it in Superman's point of view. Like, have it be like this little baby who's like in this world, has no idea what's going around him, so it kind of reflects to the audience. It's like, hey, what's going on here? Like, you sort of see, you know, what is going on, but it's not till later on when you actually hear the story told from an inside character's perspective that you get the full story. Then that makes the flashback, you know, necessary. It makes it, you know, like more poignant. It makes it, you know, like, it gives you a better picture of what happens, and you learn everything that happens with Superman, the main character you're supposed to be following.
And by the way, while we were on the subject of this, the son of Jor-El receiving his information from his father, he was born naturally. They hammer this fact in, that he is born naturally so that he may choose what to be. And then Jor-El tells him, hey, you must wear this and be a superhero. We had you so that you could choose, but you must choose to do this. So, what is the point?
This movie is just full of contradictions. Even with Mr. Kent, like he says that, you know, you must not let anybody show you who your powers, like who you are and what your powers are. You know, you must never reveal that to anyone. But I always knew that someday you would grow up to be something even bigger and be like the savior of the world.
Dude.
Even though you're not supposed to show your powers. It's like.
No wonder Superman became fucked up in later life.
And why is the son of Jor-El walking around as himself the entire movie? Isn't he supposed to have some sort of secret identity?
With that part, this is one of the few things that really didn't bother me that much. He could have had a secret identity, but then again, he was grown up, not really supposed to expose his powers. Like, he only used it at certain points, and that I kind of get, and it would have been fine if they kept that until, you know, the very end when he gets his secret identity, which defeats the whole purpose of everything else that transpired in that film. But I kind of like that. That was one of the few things I kind of liked. It's like, okay, it didn't have to be in a secret identity all the time. All right, because it still kind of felt like it was trying to still be in the Nolan verse with Batman, like what Christopher Nolan did with Batman, like trying to have that more of a realistic, real world setting, which can work. And I thought it could work with Man of Steel, but the problem is it just gets thrown aside and never really is explored that much.
You really can't approach Superman with telling it from a real life perspective, because you can't make Superman real life, because he's a fucking alien.
That is true.
Like, even if you try to make him as normal as possible, he's still a superhero. He still hails from another planet. Most of the bad guys he encounters are aliens. How do you normalize that?
I mean,
like, even if you said it like in the future, where maybe time travel is now like a casual thing, and alien races has been like mixed in with humans. Even then, that's still sci-fi. That's still, that's still fiction. I mean, if you're trying to tell this from like a real point of view, sort of like with Batman. I mean, with Batman, it's sort of believable because the guy's just a normal guy who happens to be insanely rich and can afford to do all this shit. With Superman, you really can't do that.
But I guess maybe because of the way it was shot, they were trying to make it realistic. At least they were trying to explain this. Like, there were some things that kind of tried to make sense, like with the science aspect of it, saying that that he's on Earth, and being adapted to Earth, his atmosphere and the sun, he got these powers because of it, which I kind of liked. I like how they actually at least were able to explain some of the stuff there. But that's only a small fraction of how much of the movie that I actually liked, because it's too much because there was just so much stupid shit that was going. All right, let's get to another major thing that you almost walked out of the movie for.
Oh yes.
Well, I myself actually did walk out at one point. Yes, I would like to ask you, Houstonians, don't you hammer in the fact that when there is a tornado, you are not supposed to take shelter under an overpass? So why are you ordering everybody to do so?
Did you people learn nothing from Twister?
It was at this point that I needed some air, and I actually left the film to get some more popcorn.
like this was like I wonder, is it? I'm pretty sure this is the crowning moment of stupidity in this film, because like this really did make me want to just up and abandon everything.
All right, not just the fact that you're never supposed to hide under an overpass during a tornado. The fact that he went after the family dog who was trapped in the car.
They pulled a boomer.
Boomer will live.
Oh!
But not Mr. Kent.
Oh.
Because that's what happened, and not the fact that Mr. Kent dies. It's the fact that he didn't want his son to rescue him
To keep
at all.
Secret.
That keeping a secret was more important than saving his life.
Idiot!
Like well, there's like a reference up to this. Like there's a scene leading up to this, and it's in Kent's childhood when he's on this bus that ends up falling off of a bridge, and everyone inside almost drowns. So he saves everyone, but at the same time, apparently suddenly everyone in the DC universe has turned into the people from the Marvel universe, in which they now are afraid and they shun those that help them. And they're all like, you see this parent like talking to Kent's parents about like, how could you let him lose? How could you let him do this? And it's like, he saved your son's life. What are you bitching about? And then his father's like, oh, you shouldn't have done that, son. He's like, well, what is I supposed to do? Let everyone die? He's like, yeah. And then again, this comes into play during that scene with when the tornado hits, and his father, instead of letting his superpowered son, who has super speed and could have easily just gone to the car, get the dog, run back before anyone even noticed anything, instead goes ahead, rescues the dog, and then rather than run away from the oncoming tornado, just stands there and is like, oh, no, don't save me, keep yourself a secret, bye.
It's not so much, to me, it was more the fact that, in the earlier scene, Superman saves everyone and saves all the kids in the bus. But then in the very next scene after that, the parent of the kid who saw this, it's like, he saw what Clark did, and they're just like, no, that never happened. Why couldn't they have done the same thing here? Like, Superman could have just went, save him, and then be like, wait a minute, he has superpowers. It's like, no, that was the tornado. It just happened to make it look like I was doing it that fast. Like, why couldn't they just do that? Like, they did that in the previous scene when he saved the kids in the bus. So why couldn't they have done the same thing here with the tornado? What's the difference?
In this case, it would have been even easier because people are distracted by the huge fucking wind tunnel of death that is coming towards them. They'd be too preoccupied noticing a guy who happened to be in this spot one second and this spot the next. It makes even less sense in the bus. And
they did it in an episode of Smallville. Well, sort of, because in the one episode there was nobody around and he was doing it to save a friend of his. But that's beside the point. I mean, it's like they could have just done the same thing.
I really wanted to leave after that point. It's like, what worse way can you possibly kill off a parent? Like, seriously, I've seen a lot of movies where they will off the parent just to give for the sole purpose of giving the character that dark, brooding backstory that everyone loves so much. But in most cases, it's usually there's something leading up to it. There's, a reason, like something that influences the character into becoming what they are later on. In this case, all it serves is to remind Kent, hey, don't save people, keeping your secret is important. Like, really? And And like, so he spends pretty much the rest, like, a good portion of his adult life hiding out, going from town to town under different aliases, taking different jobs, and basically trying to keep himself as unknown as possible. Like, congratulations, Mr. Kent, you totally ruined your son's life. Way to go. And that's not to say that, like, his real parents are any better, for that matter. Like, I mean, first of all, they put their infant son into a metal tube, completely naked, you know, and shoot him into the cold vacuum of space. But as it happens, like, his father is killed by you.
Yes.
And instead of, you know, just keeping him in prison or, you know, waiting because of course everyone knows this planet is doomed. No, they shoot him off into the safety of space while the world is destroyed. After the guy says, hey, I'm gonna kill your son. As soon as I get out of this, I'm gonna kill your son. And his mom's like,
I approve.
You would.
You would.
Yes.
You black-wearing
Like,
twit.
like if someone...
Flattery will get you nowhere.
Like, if Clark Kent has, like, any sort of tragic backstory, it's the fact that he has such dumbass parents.
Yes. When our parents on Krypton become too weak, we annihilate them. It is our way.
There's still more things that don't make any sense. Like, how about eventually General Zod gets out of the Phantom Zone and he comes to Earth and he finds out where Superman is. That he's on Earth.
Despite the fact that his mother was convinced that we would never find him. Huh.
But wait, that also adds another thing. If you already know where he was going to be, then what did you guys were doing for like 30 years? Like you said, you were going from like place to place to try to find where.
Yes. Well, we had been gone a long time. Obviously, we need to find out information. As we saw, our outposts were desolate. There was nobody there, because apparently, because our planet had died, none of the other outposts were able to survive. But in any case, we were gathering resources.
Point taken. But he gets to so General Zod gets to Earth. He issues a demand for Superman for the people of Earth to hand over Superman, or he's going to destroy the Earth, and he does so. All right, Superman surrenders himself to the military for the military to surrender to General Zod to give him Superman. But they also, not only do they take Superman, but they take Lois Lane, and I'm trying to think, wait.
Yes. Why would we take her?
No, seriously, why? No, I understand that Lois Lane is a dumbass in distress, but
wouldn't we normally take the dumbass in distress and use them as a hostage?
Yeah, there was no need to take. That's what I was thinking, but hostage for what exactly?
Yes.
Like,
if we already have the son of Jor-El, then why do we need an accomplice?
The only thing I could think of was because the story said so. That is the only real explanation I could think of, is because the story called for it. Because
they need
even
someone.
from a strategic standpoint, there is no reason to take Lois Lane. Oh, they were trying to look into the same mind. Like, she doesn't know any more than Superman does about Earth than anything else. So it's like she doesn't know any more than Superman than Superman knows about himself.
Why do we need to know about the Houstonians? We will rule them. That is all we need to know about them. They are weak historians. Weak Houstonians. And by that token, your military is also weak. Can you explain to me why it is that your Earth armies decide that if they are attacking a force which they have absolutely no chance of beating, have absolutely no firepower to take on, why do they keep attacking?
Oh, it's brilliant. Oh, that is great, because it ties in with later in the movie, like almost like the the second big action sequence when they're trying to blow up one of the energy harvesters that's in Metropolis, and it's screwing up with the planet's gravity. So there's like a bomber and like a couple of fighters. The fighters are shooting missiles at it. The missiles go off, and it's destroying more of Metropolis. So what do? They keep flying the planes into it, even though they know the plane is gonna go off and
Stupid Estonians.
They're just making it
Keep
worse.
going, man. We'll wear it down.
Stupid Estonians.
Dig a hole, dig a hole, dig a hole. Just digging it. You're just making it worse.
Yes, if your gun is having no effect, you're better off just taking it and firing it into your own foot.
By the way, Zod, explain this to me. You have this machine that can alter a planet's gravity. Pretty much changes to that way and mimics Krypton. Explain to me why you couldn't use this on some other desolate planet and had to pick one that was already inhabited by creatures that want to kill you.
Because we need slaves.
You just said you were going to kill them all anyway.
Yes, not all of them though. We need slaves.
They would be dead though because you were altering the atmosphere, which humans can't endure. In this version anyway.
Oh well.
And not only that, you'd be destroying all of the planet's resources in the process. Pretty much destroying any potential life-sustaining element in the first place. Just making it exactly like every other planet you've been to.
And how do you know that after being on that planet, harvesting and making it exactly like Krypton, how do you know that it's not going to end up like what happened with Krypton? It just sounds like you're just going to use up all the resources there, just drain all the resources there, cause that planet to collapse, and then just move on to the next one.
Well, let me ask you. Have you noticed how competent my character is in this movie?
You have a point there.
Yes. Mm-hmm. After all, his whole point, I believe, was that he wanted to steal the codex from the son of Jor-El's body and use it to restore the Kryptonians. And this way he would make a planet very much similar to Krypton so that it could sustain the lives of the Kryptonians. Now, I don't know if that would ever come to fruition since we never saw anything of it.
But we knew that, but it's funny because we already knew that the codex was in Superman because we saw his father putting it in there, even though they put a flashback of the exact same scene we saw at the very beginning of the movie.
Once again, unnecessary flashbacks.
And it's the exact same scene, and so it makes us think we're dumb. It's like, we know, you showed us that. We're not fucking stupid.
Remember these keys? Look at the keys! Look at the keys! Oh, you remember those keys we had? Look, here they are again! Here they are again! It's pretty much how it felt like. And not only that, but I don't understand why, but apparently they could still get the codex from Superman even if he was dead. Exactly how do you extract living cells out of a dead person?
Because science?
Bingo.
But then again, I can accept that because it's one of the things where it's like, you don't really need to explain that. Because it's a superhero movie, and science, and they have their own science, so it doesn't really matter.
But then again, we did offer him the chance to join us first, so we were not going to kill him originally.
Even though you swore at the very beginning of the film that you would.
Semantics!
And then his father didn't want to join you to begin with, so what makes you think the son is going to anyway?
Persuasion.
Yeah, persuasion after his father revealed that you killed him.
Persuasion!
Fine.
After all, I came to him in a dream where I was wearing the exact same clothing as him, but black, and a cape, for some reason.
Yeah, so you're the...
Because Kryptons have a thing for capes.
Yes, much as I like my character in his portrayal, I did not care for his costume choices. He looked like something out of a video game.
Speaking of which, that explains pretty much all the action sequences we saw.
My God!
You look like Black Lantern Superman.
Rise!
But the action sequences, like, as much as, I mean, I sort of liked it because it's like, yeah, it's pretty much what would happen with Superman. He would just go through buildings, there'd be like explosions, there'd be rubble everywhere because he has super strength and all this other stuff.
And on that subject, is the son of Jor-El not supposed to remove the human element from his fights? Isn't he supposed to take the fight to some abandoned area, void of life, possibly, or very limited life, so as to avoid hurting any of his human loves? You really suck at your job!
Not to mention...
Because we need more explosions?
True.
Yes.
Like, I could...
'Cause that's the only way I could see it.
I could die
And
from
we need-
alcohol poisoning 3 times over by taking a shot every time we saw an explosion in that movie.
You can do the same thing with the product placement in this movie. Like,
Oh my!
the product placement
IHOP,
during the especially
Sears, 7-Eleven, Vivitar, whatever that camera was.
it was Nikon. I think.
Nikon, whatever.
They shoved it in your face, though.
Why?
It wasn't just casual. It was in your face. It was like, my God. Like, but the only casual product placement was LexCorp, and that was during the fight in Metropolis. That was during your battle with Superman in Metropolis.
Oh,
I'm just like foreshadowing possible sequel. But anyway.
But seriously though, Kansas, from what I hear, is supposed to be mostly farmland and mostly very sparsely populated land. So, how is it that you have to have your battle with me in the only populous area?
It's amazing with the way
Stupid!
the way they outline the landscape. Kansas seems a lot smaller than Metropolis. Like
And a lot more populous also. They really showcase more of the towns than like the open farms, because we can't show open farms like this, but they could have done that during the action sequence when they're fighting the Kryptonians and the military. It's like it could have been like Dragon Ball Z, where they're like out in the open and they're just like just doing all these super Saiyans. And
They're always
stuff.
requesting that they take the fight to a place where there can be no casualties. So why does the son of Jor-El not do the same thing?
I think because Metropolis takes up a majority of everything. Like, seriously, it looked like someone copied and pasted the New York landscape, like, 10 times over.
Yes, but then again, in that instance, we actually did attack Metropolis. We did not attack the populous area in Kansas.
Seeing how much destruction there was with Metropolis, I'm just sitting there going, like,
Yes.
after the battle, after Superman takes down the harvest generators and all the Kryptonians were sucked back into the Phantom Zone. In the final bit, you threaten Superman. You just say, like, "This is what you have done. I have all that is left, and we must fight you." And you start fighting him again. I'm just like, my God, there is nothing left of Metropolis to destroy. There's just rubble. You're just fighting just rubble now.
And yet we found ourselves fighting in what was left to destroy.
It's like they're already in the fucking Stone Age already.
Seriously. But we had to take our battle to the only surviving buildings and continue to destroy. And yet the human life that he holds so dear, he is practically destroying because he does not care where he has his fighting. He just decides to smash through buildings that still contain people. And then he gets a huge upset feeling when I decide that I'm going to attack one of his Houstonians.
Yeah. As opposed to the
what a hypocrite!
Hundreds of thousands of people that have already died already.
What a hypocrite!
Just like his father. Here's the thing, though. Like, the fight between Zod and Superman actually would have been cool. Like, because it's, the ultimate good guy versus bad guy, and there's like...
I did like when they started fighting into space.
Yeah, like
I'll give props to that.
Yeah, like you see them going up buildings, you see them flying through the air, you see them smashing through buildings, you see them wailing on each other. This should be an awesome, cool scene. But, dear God, like, when I saw that it was about to start, I'm like, no! I want to get out! God.
Indeed.
Like, the rest of the movie dragged so much. The pacing was just so bad.
The pacing was terrible.
Like, by the time they actually got to the good stuff, I was like, no, I don't want to. I want to leave.
Let me tell you something.
This.
The pacing with this film was so bad that while we were on Krypton, I wanted to get off Krypton. I was bored with Krypton. I wanted Krypton to explode.
Yeah, it took like, what, Krypton half an hour to explode in the beginning?
Yeah,
that sounds about right.
Yeah, about there.
Like, and I don't mean like half an hour, like in normal time. I mean half an hour in movie time, and that feels like 2 hours.
Because they have to have an action sequence of Jor-El kicking ass and shooting Kryptonians and riding these dragonfly-like beasts across the planet.
My God, Russell Crowe was just overused in this. Like, it must have been in his contract that he has to appear for a certain amount of time.
Weren't you glad that I destroyed his shadow?
Yes, actually.
Oh, his hologram I like. Yeah.
That whole thing with the hologram made no sense. Like, I can understand, you know, you put the symbol in, he appears. Suddenly he's there with the computer, but then she takes it out, and he's still there. It's like
it's because he hacked in. It's like a program sort of. It's like in the
that doesn't make sense though. I mean, he's supposed to be just, you know, a recorded data on this thing. He's basically like a hard drive. Once you remove that, it should be gone, but no, somehow his ghost or whatever lives in there and can physically manipulate everything. It's like, make up your mind. Is he data or is he a ghost?
I think he's more of data. I think they made it clear that I think it's kind of more data, but
well,
I mean,
if that
but they didn't.
I believe they said that he was the preservation of his father's memory in living form.
But that could mean but that could mean anything though. That doesn't.
How did they even get that? I don't understand. Didn't he die before any of that was accomplished?
He made it in advance, beforehand.
I guess. Science. All right. Science. I was gonna say science from now on because trying to figure this out hurts my head.
I know it's. I thought it was data, but they didn't portray it. But they didn't execute it very well. That's the only logic I could think of it. It's like he's like a computer program, and once it's like the Xbox One. You install the game, and the game is there. But you can't share it with anyone. Like you can't share Jor-El across all other platforms because he only.
Well, who would want to share Jor-El?
I've never been this pissed off of a movie since I saw Anonymous a few years ago. That was a Roland Emmerich film, and I didn't think I would find another movie that would piss me off so much. Nevertheless, a Superman movie. And I'm not even a big Superman fan. I'm not, but...
And I'm telling everyone right now, I apologize, Iron Man, Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. I apologize deeply. I take back every bad thing I said about that movie. I never thought I would say that. But this movie just takes the cake. This makes Iron Man 3 look like a masterpiece by comparison. So I wear my Marvel shirt proudly and my Iron Man mask because this movie drove me to that point.
It makes Iron Man 3 look like The Dark Knight. At least with Iron Man 3, I can understand why people like Iron Man 3. At least because it's stupid fun. I can understand that. It was just, with me, there was just some parts in Iron Man 3 that just totally pissed me the fuck off. Mm-hmm. Here, with Man of Steel, I can't really find anything, and I am imploring any Superman fan who enjoyed this movie to explain to me why this movie is good.
Please, enlighten us.
Please enlighten me. I mean, yes. I'm just saying this from a moviegoer standpoint. For someone who's not that big into Superman, I understand Superman. I appreciate Superman. I have a few of the Superman comics, mostly the ones written by Alan Moore, like Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. That's actually a good one. You should read that. And I have an appreciation for it, but I mean, just from a basic filmmaker standpoint, it makes no sense. It's so fucking stupid, and I don't understand. I mean, just take the fanboy goggles off for a second and just look at it just from a regular filmmaker standpoint. I mean, I know what it's like, you know, being a hardcore fan big fan of stuff. I mean, I'm a fan of Star Wars. I know there hasn't really been a really good Star Wars movie since Empire Strikes Back. But I mean, at least, you know, I like Star Wars. It's my favorite movie of all time, but that's because I can at least look at it from a film, just from being a film and being just a really good film to watch, and knowing that it has great storytelling and great characters, and, you know, it's a great movie in general. But just step back for a minute and just look at it just from a general filmmaking standpoint and say, you know, does it hold up? You know, even if the movie wasn't about Superman, just from a general storytelling standpoint, does it make sense?
Here's an even better question. Step back and ask yourself, what do you remember about the characters? Can you name any sort of awesome aspect, any sort of quirk, any sort of, like, any trace of personality whatsoever? Like, I honestly feel nothing for these characters. Absolutely no emotional connection whatsoever. I look at them as actors who are either grossly miscast or who are wooden as hell. Or, at best, are trying, but are not quite making it.
Indeed. As I said earlier, I believe that Michael Shannon's portrayal of me was decent, but the character of me was not done well. He did not look good, nor were his plans very good either.
I think he was just more plagued by a bad script more than anything else. This script definitely needed to be rewritten.
I have a feeling it was rewritten.
Yes. How long has it been between your Superman Returns and Man of Steel?
About, I'm trying to remember, might have been, Superman Returns was like, and I saw that movie in theaters, it was like, what, 2005?
I believe it was 2007, if I'm not mistaken.
Was it 2007?
Yes. And in that time, you had your Batman reboot going through, and it was very successful. I assume they were trying to recapture that.
Well, when you have Christopher Nolan there in charge, you know, producing it and also co-writing the script, I mean, yeah, he wants to try to recapture that, and you can tell he was trying to recapture it. But also at the same time, you knew that their hearts were in the right place. They were trying to make Superman a little bit more cooler, something a little bit more relatable, based on the cinematography and based on what they were acting-wise, what they were trying to do, that I can understand, but it just wasn't executed very well. It was executed very, very poorly. It failed in a lot of just basic storytelling aspects of it, and that's what bugged me the most, is that it failed on that level. And when you fail on that level, everything else is just kind of falls apart. I mean, yeah, you could have solid characters, but if they're not strong enough, which they weren't. I mean, they were there, and you know, we knew what they were because we've seen them a bunch of times, but it's not enough to really hold the story together.
I get the feeling that they were originally going to go with that sort of a plot that I had heard about online. And in hearing the reaction to it, hastily rewrote it and re-edited it just so they wouldn't hear like the fanboys' mouths. I'm not sure if I brought this up in past VLEX or not, so apologies if I repeat myself. But online, months before this movie came out, there was a rumor going around that the original story of Superman was going to have so that Krypton was not destroyed. that
Oh, I heard about this.
that it was instead being taken over by General Zod, and that his parents sent him to Earth because he, unlike the other babies on Krypton, was born naturally and was considered an abomination. So they sent him off to Earth thinking that, you know, he'd be safer, even though they also knew he'd probably be considered a freak because of, you know, his powers. And that the whole thing was going to be that Zod eventually finds him as an adult and tries to convince him to join him. And by this point, he had enslaved Krypton and possibly was, like, en route on having it destroy itself. That's what I believe, like, was originally going to happen. And
I actually did hear...
That almost sounds like a better movie.
I know, it does sound like a better movie, and I can understand why they dropped it, because, you know, it does ruin the origin, because, you know, Krypton was destroyed. I mean, I can see fanboys being enraged by that. Although it would have made a much better story, even if, like... But then again, I thought for a second, wait, what if they did that, but he enslaved another planet? But then I'm like, then if he did that, then why does he need to go find, if he has another home? But
because, like, you can sort of tell that there are traces of that story left behind in the movie. Like,
yes.
The fact that they have Krypton en route to blowing itself up, and Zod taking over at the same time. Now, normally those would be the beginning of two completely different movies.
I know.
But they combine them, and it doesn't work because you have the bad guy trying to take over a planet that he knows is on its way to being destroyed.
I know. That's what I got so upset about, was that it doesn't make any sense. Why would you want to take over a planet that's going to be destroyed in a matter of days anyway?
And, like, the whole issue was that, he was only going to select certain people to live instead of everyone to live.
Yeah, that just I felt that was tacked on, just like, because he's evil, because he does that.
And in truth, I actually was for that, because when you see, like, the Guardians or whatever, the old people in charge, and you see that they clearly don't give a shit about the fact that they're destroying their planet's core and it's going to kill them all, it's like, yeah, why not? Let him save the clearly smart people. Let all the other dumbasses die. Like, and like the other thing, like, they brought up the whole fact that Superman was naturally birthed instead of processed, and like you said, that went nowhere. That was left over from what the original plot was. And then the whole thing with him growing up being an outcast, and of course later on Zod trying to convert him to his side, even though Superman has absolutely no reason to join his side.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the original root of the movie. And now that I think back on it, it would have actually been interesting to see it go that way. True, it would probably piss off a lot of people.
But it would also explore different avenues that you could do with it, and would have made for a much more interesting film. The one thing that still kind of bugged me, though, was they put a lot of emphasis on the atmosphere, saying, like, him being adapted to Earth's atmosphere got him, like, all these powers, even though it's the sun, even though atmosphere was never a factor in any of the other Superman movies or anything else in Mythos.
I was very confused when we brought the Son of Jor-El aboard our ship.
I mean,
that didn't make sense.
I mean, it kind of makes it more realistic because, you know, aliens adapting to Earth, that atmosphere and that whole War of the Worlds aspect, but at the same time, that really shouldn't be an issue.
No.
It shouldn't.
It should absolutely not be.
Because like, the whole thing is that the planets are basically the same when you think about it. I mean, the inhabitants look exactly alike. They have pretty much the same biological structure, except that in case of Kryptonians, their cells are actually enhanced by the radiation from the sun.
That's the yellow sun in particular.
Right, that's the only real difference. Like, it just... The whole atmosphere thing just doesn't make sense, and it especially adds to the fact that Superman has stupid, neglectful parents, because, like, they're sending their infant son to a planet that has an atmosphere that does not support their kind. They don't know how he's going to respond. They don't know if he's going to die the instant that the air thing, like, is taken off. and the fact that apparently he did manage to adapt somehow instantly as a baby, but he cannot readapt even though he's still technically a Kryptonian. Like, you would think that'd be like an inherent thing. I mean, it's not like you take a fish out of water, make it learn to breathe air, and then it doesn't know how to breathe water again.
It just makes it more it just raises too many questions. It does. It just makes things more complicated than it has to be.
Oh my god, this movie. This goddamn movie.
My brain hurts. It hurts the brain.
So, final synopsis. Man of Steel has no place in the Zodonian People's Republic of Houston.
I actually agree. It does not. People do not give your money to this movie. Like,
No.
I cannot stress it enough. I mean, I've talked about bad movies before, like how even though they are bad, there are some aspects that makes it worth taking a look at. But in this case, there is nothing.
If any, it's just buried with so much bad crap that's thrown in there. Like, there was maybe one or two things I did like about that movie, and like they were how they explained the science, and I guess how they're going for a more realistic approach with Superman's character, more natural approach. But the problem is, it's just plagued with all sorts of plot holes and character decisions that made absolutely no sense, and visual effects which you clearly could tell was fake. I mean, at one point when I saw the Kryptonians fighting in Kansas, it was like, you know what? Just give me a controller and let me just start playing. Because it felt like it looked like
it really does look like one of your video games.
It looks like one of the animations from Assassin's Creed. That's what I'm looking at this, and I just saw the trailer to the new one back at E3.
Yeah. If you're really curious, get the Man of Steel video game that probably is already out or inevitably going to come out.
I don't think there is one.
You sure?
I'm pretty positive there is no movie tie-in with this.
That is a surprise.
I mean, yes, it is a surprise. In fact, if I knew there was a movie tie-in, Angry Joe would be all over that because he's like a big Superman fan, and I would be the first to know. But no, I don't think there is a Man of Steel tie-in. And if there is
a big surprise.
If there is, it'll probably be like mobile or something.
And that's what it felt like. It felt like you were playing a Square Enix game. In that, it's all these characters going at super breakneck speed with all these insanely overpowered moves in like a city that is slowly crumbling to the ground. It sounds like, every other Final Fantasy game out there.
Yeah. But, yeah.
And it was directed by Michael Bay. And Roland Emmerich. Because they just love blowing shit up.
And Roland Emmerich just loves pissing the fuck off of people. And White House Down is coming out, and fuck that movie too, because it's like it's
been done.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So yeah, this movie sucked, big time.
This movie sucked.
Worst movie ever. Well, I wouldn't say worst movie of the year so far.
Oh, good. I had hoped I had some leftover rage from last night, but yeah, I know we seem calm right now, but if you saw our preview, you know how mad this movie made us.
I was, I woke up this morning, and I was still fucking pissed off on how bad that movie was. I still was trying to I was trying to shake it off, Anonymous didn't do this to me. At least with Anonymous, it just pissed me off for a little bit, but then I was able to shake it off. This one, I just couldn't shake it off because there's people out there who are fans of Superman who went and saw this movie, who liked it, who went on war on Twitter and Facebook over people who didn't like this movie, and I'm just sitting there going,
it's Twilight all over again.
Yeah, but at least with Twilight, we could make fun. There was something to make fun of. The people who hated it, also joked about it too. But I can't really. Maybe it's just me, but I can't really make anything.
And I guarantee
funny.
You, my dad will still say this movie is good because he looks at it purely from a comic fanboy perspective, and that hey, it's silly, goofy stuff from the Silver Age. I can forgive it.
It wasn't really Silver Age stuff, though.
I know.
It kind of felt more like New 52 stuff, and I've read some of the Superman New 52. With what they were going, and in fact, I even heard that there was also some talk that maybe his character was going to be based off of the New 52 stuff that was going on, and I'm like, because the New 52 Superman's, it's whatever, but...
I miss the red underwear.
I mean, his suit was okay.
Yeah, I mean, at least
alright.
it was dignified for the most part, despite the rather somewhat obvious crotch shot.
Yes.
Same thing.
Same with my character.
You Kryptonians, man. Keep it in your pants.
What pants?
Point taken.
So
yeah, Superman, Man
Terrible.
of Steel, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Man of Fail.
And the worst part about this is that at the end of the movie, he dons his secret identity as Clark Kent as reporter for the Daily Planet.
Even though everybody knows who he is.
Even Lois Lane knows who he is. It's like, really? Like, Lois knows who you are, so it's...
I guess we can assume that either A, he did the mind-erasing kiss on everyone in the world, or he spun around the world and made time go backwards to undo everything.
That would be fun.
That would be the only explanation I could accept.
That can explain how Metropolis was rebuilt so quickly. How else?
I miss cheesy Superman movies now. As bad as they were, at least they were enjoyable. At least you can make fun of them. At least you could laugh. With this, there is nothing. In fact,
It's just
I'm gonna go run around the world right now and pretty much just pretend this never happened. No, let me do it. Let me do it. I want to turn back time.
You let her go.
No.
Let me go.
Filthy Estonian. You have no
Where's my
effect on
laser?
me. I'm a Kryptonian. This has
Didn't stop the
been
military.
this has been Zod's Vlogs. I'm General Zod, and you will all kneel. Kneel!
Krypton!
Kryptonite! You filthy Estonian!
This is for Superman 3. This is for Superman 4. This is for Superman Returns. This is for Superman at Earth's End. This is for every stupid Superman movie.
And this is just because I'm pissed off.
So yeah, this movie sucked. I'm Y2 Staller.
I'm Catty Critic.
I'm General Zod.